There is a voice in your head. You know the one. It shows up the moment you try something new. The second you think about starting a business, applying for that job, reaching out to that person, or finally committing to the goal you've been carrying around for years, it's right there. Quiet at first, then louder. It says things like, "Who do you think you are?" It says, "You're not smart enough, not talented enough, not ready." It reminds you of every time you tried before and fell short. It builds a case against you using your own memories as evidence. And the worst part? You believe it? You've been listening to this voice for so long that it doesn't even feel like a voice anymore. It feels like the truth. But here's what you need to understand. That voice is not the truth. That voice is a liar. And today we're going to talk about why you believe it. And more importantly, how you stop letting it run your life. Let me describe what self-doubt actually looks like in your daily life. You come up with an idea, a genuinely good idea. For a few minutes, you feel excited. You can see it working. You start to plan, but then something shifts. You start to poke holes in it. You think about everything that could go wrong. You think about how other people have already done something similar, and they were probably more qualified than you. You think about what your family would say, what your friends would think, what strangers on the internet might comment, and just like that, the idea dies. Not because it was a bad idea, but because you talked yourself out of it before you even tried. This is happening every single day. Opportunities are passing you by. Not because you lack the ability, but because you've outsourced your confidence to a voice inside your head that doesn't want you to grow. Here's where that voice comes from. Early in your life, you learned that certain behaviors were safe and others were risky. You were told no. You were laughed at. You failed at something in front of others and felt the sting of embarrassment. Maybe you tried hard at something and it didn't work out the way you hoped. Maybe someone important to you made you feel like you weren't good enough. And your brain, being the brilliant survival machine it is, cataloged all of that. It said, okay, trying new things leads to pain. Let's be careful next time. Let's protect ourselves. That inner critic was born to keep you safe. But safety and growth are not the same thing. Safety is staying where you are. Growth is moving into uncomfortable territory. And the problem is your brain cannot tell the difference between genuine danger and the discomfort of trying something new. So it treats both the same way. It sounds the alarm. It sends in the inner critic. And you back down. Every time you back down, the inner critic gets stronger. Every time you avoid the thing that scares you, you send your brain the message that the fear was justified, and the cycle tightens. The voice gets louder. The avoidance gets deeper, until one day you look around and you realize you have built a very small, very safe, very suffocating life. Not because the world stopped you, but because you stopped yourself. Let's talk about what self-doubt is really protecting you from, because it's not failure. People can handle failure. What self-doubt is protecting you from is visibility. It's keeping you hidden. Because the moment you put yourself out there, the moment you try, the moment you commit, the moment you show the world what you actually believe in, you become vulnerable. You become someone who can be judged. And judgment feels like rejection. And rejection, to your brain, feels like a threat to your survival. So instead, you stay small. You keep your ideas to yourself. You say, I could do that, but never actually do it. You watch other people succeed at things you know you're capable of. And you tell yourself some story about luck or connections or privilege rather than admitting the uncomfortable truth, which is that they were willing to be seen and you were not. This is not a character flaw. This is conditioning. But conditioning can be undone. Here's the first thing you need to do. You need to stop arguing with the inner critic and start observing it. Most people make the mistake of engaging with the voice. They try to fight it. They try to convince themselves that it's wrong. But arguing with the inner critic gives it power. It's like trying to win a debate in a courtroom where the other side is you. The critic will always have more ammunition because it has access to every memory, every failure, every moment of weakness you've ever had. Instead, practice this. When the voice shows up, notice it. Literally say to yourself, there's that voice again. Don't argue with it. Don't agree with it. Just observe it. You are not your thoughts. You are the person watching your thoughts, and the moment you create that small space between you and the voice, its power starts to shrink. The second thing you need to understand is this: self-doubt will never go away completely. Stop waiting for it to disappear before you start. Every successful person you admire still hears that voice. The difference is not that they silenced it. The difference is that they learned to act in spite of it. They heard the voice say you're not ready, and they responded by doing the thing anyway. Over and over again, until the voice became background noise instead of a stop sign. Courage is not the absence of doubt. Courage is doing the thing while doubt is loud and present and screaming in your ear. Third, you need to look at the evidence your inner critic is using against you, and then you need to look at the evidence it is ignoring. Your inner critic has a confirmation bias. It cherry-picks the moments where you fell short and presents them as proof of your inadequacy. But it conveniently leaves out the times you figured something out you didn't think you could, the times you surprised yourself, the times you were told you couldn't and you did anyway. Those moments exist. You have them. But the critic doesn't want you thinking about those. So you have to go find them yourself. Make a list. Seriously, a real, written list of moments in your life when you doubted yourself and pushed through. When you were afraid and you did it anyway. When you were underestimated and you exceeded expectations. That list is also evidence. That list is also the truth. And you need to read it regularly, especially on the days when the critic is loudest. Let's talk about comparison, because comparison is the inner critic's favorite weapon. You scroll through other people's highlight reels and you use them as evidence that you're behind, that you're less than, that you've already lost. But here is what you're not seeing. You're not seeing the years of doubt they waded through. You're not seeing the 100 failures that preceded the one success they posted about. You're not seeing the version of them from 3 years ago who felt exactly the way you feel right now. Comparison would not hurt you if you were comparing full pictures. But you're comparing your entire inner experience, all your fear, all your doubt, all your mess, against someone else's curated external results. That is not a fair comparison. That is a trap. And every time you fall into it, the inner critic uses it to make you feel like you don't belong in the conversation. You do. You just haven't seen enough of the real, unfiltered version of other people's journeys to believe it yet. Here's something nobody talks about enough. The inner critic gets loudest right before a breakthrough. Think about that. It is right when you are on the edge of something real, right when you are about to step into something new and significant, that the voice turns up its volume to maximum. It knows you're close, and it panics, so it throws everything it has at you: the doubt, the fear, the worst-case scenarios, the list of everyone who is more qualified than you. Most people mistake that surge of doubt for a sign that they're making a mistake. They turn back. They interpret the volume of the fear as evidence that they shouldn't proceed. But it's the opposite. The loudness is the signal that something is at stake, something real, something worth doing. The critic doesn't get loud when you're playing small. It gets loud when you're about to play big. So pay attention to what the voice fears most, because whatever it is fighting hardest to protect you from, that is probably exactly where you need to go. You also need to stop feeding the critic with isolation. Self-doubt thrives in silence. It thrives when you keep your goals and your fears locked inside your head with no external input, no accountability, no other voices to offer perspective. The more you isolate with the critic, the more convinced you become that what it's saying is accurate. Find people who have done the thing you want to do. Not so they can tell you it's easy, but so they can tell you they heard the same voice and they kept moving anyway. That evidence, that real human evidence, is more powerful than any motivational content you will ever consume. Now let's talk about what happens when you actually start challenging the inner critic. It's not going to feel like a breakthrough at first. It's going to feel awkward. It's going to feel like you're pretending to be something you're not. You'll take a step forward and the critic will say, "See, I told you this was a mistake." You'll produce work that isn't as good as you wanted and the critic will point at it and say, "Proof. You're not cut out for this." This is normal. This is expected. This is part of the process. The early stages of building confidence look exactly like failure from the inside, like you're doing new things. You're operating outside your comfort zone. Of course it feels shaky. Of course it feels uncertain. That feeling is not a red flag. That feeling is growth presenting itself in real time. The question is not whether you will feel doubt. You will. The question is whether you will let the feeling make your decisions for you, or whether you will make your decisions and bring the feeling along for the ride. Here's the truth about who you actually are, separate from what the critic says. You are not your failures. You are not your most embarrassing moments. You are not the version of yourself that gave up. You are not the slow start, the false start, or the abandoned start. You are also every moment you tried, every moment you got back up, every moment you wanted to quit and didn't, every time you did something hard because you knew it mattered. That person has been there all along. That person is still here, but they've been drowned out by a voice that got far more airtime than it deserved. Here is what I want you to do after this, not someday. Today. Pick one thing that the inner critic has talked you out of doing, one thing you've been avoiding because the voice told you it was too risky, too uncertain, too likely to end in judgment or rejection, and take one small step toward it. Not the whole thing, just one step. Tell one person about the goal, write the first line, make the first call, submit the first application. The step doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be impressive. It just has to be real. It just has to be something. Because every time you act in the direction of your goals, despite the noise in your head, you are sending a message to your brain. You're teaching it that the fear is survivable, that the discomfort won't kill you, that the voice, as loud as it is, does not get to make the final call. You are not as limited as the voice says you are. You are not as fragile as the voice says you are. You are not as far behind as the voice says you are. The voice has been lying to you for years, and the way you prove it wrong is not by arguing with it. The way you prove it wrong is by building a life so full of action and evidence and real attempts that even your inner critic can't deny what you're becoming. You've been living inside the story the critic wrote for you. It's time to write your own. Start today. Start now. One step, one choice, one moment of choosing yourself over the voice that never believed in you. That's how you win, not by silencing the doubt, by making the doubt irrelevant.